The Gifts of Imperfection, Let Go of Who You Think You're Supposed to Be and Embrace Who You Are by Brené Brown, PhD, LMS, Comprehensive Book Summary. Owning our story and loving ourselves through that process is the bravest thing that we will ever do. Brené Brown, Table of Contents Overview and Introduction. Core Concepts. The 10 Guideposts for Wholehearted Living. Key themes and insights, practical applications, conclusion, overview, and introduction about the author. Brené Brown is a research professor at the University of Houston, where she has spent over 2 decades studying courage, vulnerability, shame, and empathy. Her groundbreaking work has transformed how we understand human connection and authenticity. With a background in social work and grounded theory research, Brown has interviewed thousands of people and analyzed countless stories to understand what makes some people live wholeheartedly while others struggle with shame and fear. The Gifts of Imperfection emerged from Brown's extensive research on shame and vulnerability. The book represents a turning point in her work and in her personal life, as she discovered that to truly understand connection and belonging, she had to confront her own struggles with perfectionism, self-worth, and authenticity. This book is both a research-based guide and a deeply personal account of Brown's journey toward wholehearted living, central premise. The book's central message is both revolutionary and liberating. Worthiness is our birthright. We don't have to earn it, prove it, or demonstrate it. We are worthy simply because we exist. However, our culture, with its emphasis on perfectionism, productivity, and achievement, constantly tells us otherwise. We spend our lives trying to be enough, thin enough, successful enough, wealthy enough, attractive enough, smart enough, perfect enough. Brown argues that this pursuit of perfection is not only impossible, but also destructive. It prevents us from living authentically, connecting deeply with others, and experiencing true belonging. The solution is not to try harder to be perfect, but to embrace our imperfections, cultivate self-compassion, and live wholeheartedly. Through her research, Brown identified common characteristics among people who live with a strong sense of love and belonging, people she calls the wholehearted. These individuals have the courage to be imperfect, the compassion to be kind to themselves and others, and the connection that comes from authenticity. They are willing to let go of who they think they should be to embrace who they are. They believe they are worthy of love and belonging, and this belief shapes their entire approach to life. The Research Foundation. What makes this book particularly powerful is that it's not based on theory or speculation. It's grounded in over a decade of rigorous research. Brown conducted thousands of interviews and analyzed countless personal stories using grounded theory methodology, which involves collecting data and then looking for patterns and themes that emerge organically from the data itself. Through this research, Brown discovered that people who live wholeheartedly share specific practices and perspectives. They cultivate what Brown calls the 10 guideposts, practices that foster resilience, authenticity, and meaningful connection. Equally important, they recognize and work to overcome common obstacles that prevent wholehearted living, including perfectionism, numbing, scarcity thinking, and shame. Core concepts: wholehearted living. Wholehearted living is about engaging with the world from a place of worthiness. It means cultivating the courage, compassion, and connection to wake up in the morning and think, no matter what gets done and how much is left undone, I am enough. It's going to bed at night thinking, yes, I am imperfect and vulnerable and sometimes afraid, but that doesn't change the truth that I'm also brave and worthy of love and belonging. This is not about positive thinking or self-help platitudes. It's about fundamentally shifting how we see ourselves and our place in the world. Wholehearted living requires us to cultivate authenticity and let go of what people think, cultivate self-compassion and let go of perfectionism, cultivate a resilient spirit and let go of numbing and powerlessness, cultivate gratitude and joy and let go of scarcity and fear of the dark, cultivate intuition and trusting faith and let go of the need for certainty. Cultivate creativity and let go of comparison. Cultivate play and rest and let go of exhaustion as a status symbol. Cultivate calm and stillness and let go of anxiety as a lifestyle. Cultivate meaningful work and let go of self-doubt and supposed to cultivate laughter, song, and dance and let go of being cool and always in control. Each of these cultivations and releases represents a choice we make every day about how to live our lives: courage, compassion, and connection. These three concepts form the foundation of wholehearted living. Courage Brown defines courage in its original sense, from the Latin cor, meaning heart. To speak from the heart means to tell the story of who you are with your whole heart. It means showing up and being seen, even when there are no guarantees. Courage is not about being fearless. It's about being afraid and doing it anyway. It's about being vulnerable, which many people mistakenly see as weakness, but is actually the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change. Wholehearted people practice ordinary courage on a daily basis. They have the courage to be imperfect, set boundaries, allow themselves to be vulnerable, share their authentic selves with the world, say no when they need to, ask for what they need. This kind of courage isn't dramatic or heroic. It's quiet, steady, and deeply personal. Compassion. Compassion is not the same as pity or sympathy. It's the recognition of shared humanity and suffering, combined with a genuine desire to help. Brown emphasizes that we cannot practice compassion with others if we can't treat ourselves with kindness and understanding. Self-compassion is particularly challenging in a culture that equates self-criticism with motivation and self-improvement. True compassion involves mindfulness, being aware of our suffering without judgment, common humanity, recognizing that suffering and imperfection are part of the shared human experience. Self-kindness, being warm and understanding toward ourselves when we fail or make mistakes. When we practice self-compassion, we become less judgmental and more accepting of ourselves and others. We recognize that everyone is doing the best they can with the resources they have. Connection. Connection is the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued, when they can give and receive without judgment, and when they derive sustenance and strength from the relationship. Brown's research shows that connection is why we're here. It gives purpose and meaning to our lives. The problem is that we often seek connection through fitting in and gaining approval rather than through belonging and authenticity. True belonging doesn't require us to change who we are. It requires us to be who we are. This distinction is crucial. When we present an authentic version of ourselves, we create the possibility for genuine connection. When we present a carefully curated, acceptable version of ourselves, we may fit in, but will never truly belong. Shame and vulnerability. Understanding shame. Shame is the intensely painful feeling that we are unworthy of love and belonging. It's the fear that something we've done or failed to do, something about who we are or where we come from, makes us unlovable and undeserving of connection. Brown distinguishes shame from guilt. Shame, I am bad. Guilt, I did something bad. Shame focuses on self. Guilt focuses on behavior. Guilt can actually be adaptive. It helps us recognize when we've violated our own values and motivates us to apologize or make amends. Shame, however, is highly correlated with addiction, depression, violence, aggression, bullying, suicide, and eating disorders. It's also correlated with low levels of empathy, connection, and resilience. Shame thrives on three things. 1. Secrecy. Shame loves it when we keep our experiences and feelings hidden. 2. Silence. The more we stay quiet about our shame, the more power it has over us. 3. Judgment. Both self-judgment and fear of judgment from others feed shame. The antidote to shame is empathy. When we share our shame stories with someone who responds with empathy and understanding, shame loses its power. It cannot survive being spoken and met with compassion. Embracing vulnerability. Vulnerability is the core of all emotions and feelings. To feel is to be vulnerable. To believe vulnerability is weakness is to believe that feeling is weakness. This creates a dangerous paradox. We desperately want connection and belonging, but connection and belonging require vulnerability, which we've been taught to avoid at all costs. Brown's research revealed that vulnerability is not weakness. It's our most accurate measurement of courage. Acts of vulnerability include initiating a friendship, saying I love you first, trying something new, asking for help, standing up for what you believe in, admitting you made a mistake, sharing an unpopular opinion, starting your own business. The wholehearted have learned to embrace vulnerability. They understand that uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure are not optional. They are the path to living a meaningful life. Instead of running from vulnerability, they lean into it, recognizing it as the birthplace of love, belonging, joy, courage, empathy, creativity, and innovation, the 10 guideposts for wholehearted living. Through her research, Brown identified 10 guideposts that wholehearted people practice to cultivate resilience and authentic connection. Each guidepost involves both cultivating something positive and letting go of something that holds us back. These are not 10 steps to be completed sequentially. They are ongoing practices that require daily attention and commitment. Guidepost 1: Cultivating authenticity. Letting go of what people think. Authenticity is the daily practice of letting go of who we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we are. It's choosing to show up and be real, to be honest about our thoughts and feelings, and to live in alignment with our values, even when it's uncomfortable or unpopular. Authenticity requires cultivating the courage to be imperfect, accepting that we will make mistakes and that's okay, exercising compassion, being kind to ourselves and others, especially when we fail, nurturing connection, building relationships based on who we really are, not who we think we should be. The greatest challenge to living authentically is the pressure to conform and gain approval. We desperately want to fit in, to be accepted, to be liked. But fitting in and belonging are not the same thing. Fitting in requires us to assess situations and groups and then change ourselves to fit. Belonging, on the other hand, doesn't require us to change who we are. It requires us to be who we are. Brown shares a powerful insight from her research. We cannot selectively numb emotions. When we numb the painful emotions, we also numb the positive ones. Joy, gratitude, happiness, love. We cannot pick and choose which emotions to feel. When we armor up against vulnerability and pain, we also shut down our capacity for connection and joy. Practicing authenticity means making choices based on what's right for us, not what will earn approval. Speaking our truth even when our voice shakes. Setting boundaries and saying no when necessary. Accepting that not everyone will like or approve of us, and that's okay. Recognizing that our worth is not contingent on what others think of us. Authenticity is not something we have or don't have. It's a practice, a conscious choice about how we want to live. Every day we face the choice. Do I show up and let myself be seen, or do I hide behind a mask? Guidepost 2: Cultivating self-compassion. Letting go of perfectionism. Perfectionism is not the same thing as striving for excellence. Perfectionism is not about healthy achievement and growth. It's a defensive move. It's the belief that if we do things perfectly and look perfect, we can minimize or avoid the pain of blame, judgment, and shame. Perfectionism is, at its core, about trying to earn approval and acceptance. Most perfectionists grew up being praised for achievement and performance. Grades, manners, rule following, people-pleasing, appearance, sports. Somewhere along the way, they adopted this dangerous belief: I am what I accomplish and how well I accomplish it. This thinking is dangerous because it leads to the conclusion: if I'm not perfect, I'm not worthy. Brown emphasizes that perfectionism is self-destructive. There's no such thing as perfect, so we're setting ourselves up for failure. Addictive. When we experience shame, judgment, or blame, we often believe it's because we weren't perfect enough, so we try even harder. Based on other people's perceptions, we're trying to meet an impossible standard of what others might think. A barrier to connection. When we're focused on being perfect, we can't be authentic. The antidote to perfectionism is self-compassion. Where perfectionism says, I must be perfect to be worthy, self-compassion says, I am imperfect, and that's okay. I am still worthy of love and belonging. Self-compassion involves treating ourselves with the same kindness, concern, and understanding we'd show to a good friend who is struggling. Practicing self-compassion includes talking to ourselves like we would talk to someone we love, acknowledging that everyone makes mistakes and experiences failure, being mindful of our pain without exaggerating or suppressing it, recognizing that imperfection is part of the shared human experience, forgiving ourselves when we fall short. Brown shares an important insight. Perfectionism hampers success. Research shows that perfectionism is correlated with depression, anxiety, addiction, and life paralysis. The feeling of being so overwhelmed by fear that we can't move forward. Understanding the difference between healthy striving and perfectionism is critical to laying down the shield and picking up your life. Guidepost 3. Cultivating a resilient spirit. Letting go of numbing and powerlessness. Resilience is the ability to overcome adversity, to bounce back from difficult experiences stronger and more resourceful. It's not about avoiding pain or hardship. It's about moving through them with hope and courage. Many of us respond to pain, discomfort, and vulnerability by numbing, using anything we can find to take the edge off. The problem is that we can't selectively numb emotion. When we numb the dark, we also numb the light. We cannot numb vulnerability without numbing love, joy, creativity, and belonging. Common forms of numbing include alcohol and drugs, food, shopping and spending, perfectionism and control, work and busyness, constant social media scrolling or TV watching, gossip and judgment. Brown's research identified several key characteristics that foster resilience: resourcefulness and problem solving, the ability to ask for help and access resources, connection and support, having people we can turn to in times of need, the belief that things can change and improve, spirituality, a sense of meaning and purpose beyond ourselves. Building resilience requires us to face our pain and discomfort rather than running from it. It means acknowledging what we're feeling, reaching out for support, and choosing healthy coping strategies instead of numbing behaviors. Guidepost 4. Cultivating gratitude and joy, letting go of scarcity and fear of the dark. One of Brown's most surprising findings was about the relationship between joy and gratitude. She expected to find that joyful people were grateful people. What she actually found was more specific. People who described themselves as joyful actively practiced gratitude. They didn't just feel grateful, they made gratitude a daily practice. Brown also discovered something she calls foreboding joy, the belief that allowing ourselves to feel joy will inevitably lead to disaster. Many people can't fully embrace joyful moments because they're constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop. They think that by anticipating the worst, they can somehow protect themselves from pain. This scarcity mindset, the never enough problem, pervades our culture. We wake up thinking, I didn't get enough sleep. Oh, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. I'm not productive enough. I'm not successful enough. And we go to bed thinking the same thoughts. Scarcity thrives in a culture where we're constantly comparing ourselves to others and finding ourselves lacking. The antidote to scarcity is not abundance or excess. It's enough. And the way we cultivate enough is through practicing gratitude. Not just feeling grateful, but actively acknowledging our blessings. Keeping a gratitude journal, sharing gratitude with loved ones, taking time to notice and appreciate small moments. Expressing appreciation to others, Brown emphasizes that the best way to counter foreboding joy is to practice gratitude in joyful moments. When we feel joy, instead of thinking, what if something bad happens, we can think, I'm so grateful for this moment. This doesn't protect us from pain, nothing can, but it allows us to fully experience joy when it comes. Guidepost 5. Cultivating intuition and trusting faith. Letting go of the need for certainty, faith is a place of mystery where we find the courage to believe in what we cannot see and the strength to let go of our fear of uncertainty. Intuition is the quiet voice inside us that knows things we haven't consciously learned. It's our gut feeling, our inner wisdom. Many of us struggle with faith and intuition because we desperately crave certainty. We want guarantees, proof, assurance that everything will be okay. But life doesn't work that way. Uncertainty is inevitable, and the quest for certainty often leads to anxiety and stress, inability to make decisions, missing opportunities, playing it safe instead of taking meaningful risks. Cultivating faith means accepting that we will never have all the answers. It means being comfortable with not knowing, trusting that we'll figure things out as we go. This doesn't mean being reckless or irresponsible. It means being willing to move forward without guarantees. Trusting our intuition requires us to pay attention to our gut feelings, create space for stillness and reflection, honor our inner knowing even when it doesn't make logical sense. Distinguish between fear-based reactions and genuine intuitive wisdom. Brown notes that many people struggle with faith and spirituality because they confuse it with religion. Faith doesn't require a specific religious framework. It's simply the belief that we're connected to something larger than ourselves and that we're not alone. Guidepost 6. Cultivating creativity, letting go of comparison. Creativity is not just for artists. It's the way we express ourselves and make meaning in the world. Whether we're solving problems at work, decorating our homes, or finding new ways to connect with our children, we're all creative beings. The greatest enemy of creativity is comparison. When we constantly measure ourselves against others, we lose our unique voice and vision, become paralyzed by inadequacy, stop creating altogether. Focus on competition rather than contribution. Brown shares a powerful quote, "Comparison is the thief of joy." When we're constantly looking at what others are doing and comparing it to our own efforts, we rob ourselves of the satisfaction and pleasure that comes from creating. Cultivating creativity involves making time for creative pursuits, even if they're not productive, embracing our unique gifts and perspectives, creating for the sake of creating, not for applause or approval, being willing to make bad art, write bad drafts, and create imperfect things, focusing on our own path rather than what others are doing. Brown emphasizes that unused creativity doesn't just disappear, it lives inside us as grief, rage, judgment, sorrow, and shame. When we don't use our creativity, we feel unfulfilled and resentful. Making time for creative expression is not selfish or frivolous. It's essential for our well-being. Guidepost 7. Cultivating play and rest, letting go of exhaustion as a status symbol and productivity as self-worth. Our culture has created a dangerous connection between exhaustion and productivity with self-worth. We wear our busyness as a badge of honor. We brag about how little sleep we get, how many hours we work, how packed our schedules are. We've convinced ourselves that rest is for the weak and play is for children. But Brown's research shows that play and rest are essential for wholehearted living. Play is time spent without purpose, activities we do simply because they bring us joy. Rest is time when we allow our bodies and minds to recover from the demands of daily life. The benefits of play include reduced stress, improved brain function, increased creativity and innovation, better relationships, greater overall life satisfaction. Rest is equally important. When we're chronically exhausted, then we make poor decisions, we're more reactive and less thoughtful, we're more likely to get sick. We have less patience with ourselves and others. We lose our sense of joy and wonder. Cultivating play and rest requires us to challenge the belief that our worth is tied to our productivity. It means recognizing that we are human beings, not human doings. Our value doesn't come from how much we accomplish or how busy we are. It comes from who we are. Practical ways to incorporate play and rest. Schedule time for activities that bring you joy. Prioritize sleep and downtime. Say no to commitments that drain you. Take breaks during the workday. Engage in hobbies that have no productive outcome. Brown notes that when we stop for play and rest, we often feel anxious or guilty. That's our culture's messaging trying to pull us back into busyness. The challenge is to sit with that discomfort and choose rest anyway. Guidepost 8. Cultivating calm and stillness. Letting go of anxiety as a lifestyle. Calm is creating perspective and mindfulness while managing emotional reactivity. Stillness is creating a space to think and process rather than constantly moving and doing. Many of us have become so accustomed to anxiety that we've normalized it. We live in a constant state of stress, always rushing, always worried, always planning for the next thing. We check our phones compulsively, fill every moment with activity, and rarely sit in silence. This chronic anxiety serves a purpose. It keeps us from feeling vulnerable emotions like fear, grief, or sadness. When we're constantly busy and anxious, we don't have to sit with uncomfortable feelings. But this comes at a tremendous cost. We lose our ability to be present. We damage our physical health. We miss meaningful moments with loved ones. We make reactive rather than thoughtful decisions. Cultivating calm and stillness involves developing a mindfulness or meditation practice, taking deep breaths when we feel overwhelmed, creating technology-free time each day, spending time in nature and journaling or other reflective practices, sitting in silence without distraction. Brown emphasizes that calm and stillness are not personality traits, they're practices. Even naturally anxious or energetic people can cultivate these qualities through intentional effort. Guidepost 9. Cultivating meaningful work. Letting go of self-doubt and supposed to. Meaningful work is not the same as a meaningful job. While we all hope to find work that aligns with our values and uses our gifts, meaningful work is really about the spirit we bring to whatever we do. It's about seeing our work, whether paid or unpaid, as an expression of who we are and what we value. The biggest obstacles to meaningful work are self-doubt, the fear that we're not good enough or don't know enough to do meaningful work. Supposed to, the belief that we should be doing something other than what we're doing, or that we should have accomplished more by now. Many people stay in jobs or situations they hate because they believe they're supposed to. They're supposed to have a stable career, supposed to make a certain amount of money, supposed to follow a particular path. These supposed to keep us from exploring what we actually want and what would truly be meaningful to us. Cultivating meaningful work involves identifying our gifts and talents, understanding what we value and care about, finding ways to use our gifts in service of our values, letting go of what we think we should be doing, having the courage to make changes when our work no longer serves us. Bringing our whole selves to whatever we do, Brown emphasizes that meaningful work doesn't have to be our paid employment. Volunteering, parenting, creative pursuits, community involvement, all of these that can be deeply meaningful work. The key is to recognize that we all have gifts to share and that using those gifts is essential to wholehearted living. Guidepost 10. Cultivating laughter, song, and dance. Letting go of being cool and always in control. Laughter, song, and dance are about letting go of control and allowing ourselves to be silly, spontaneous, and free. They're about embracing joy without worrying about what we look like or what others might think. Our culture values being cool, composed, and in control. We're supposed to have it all together, to be sophisticated and mature. But this constant need to maintain our image prevents us from experiencing genuine joy and connection. Brown shares that when she asked people about their most joyful, connected moments, they often described times when they were being completely unself-conscious, dancing at a wedding without worrying about their moves, singing loudly in the car, having a spontaneous pillow fight with their kids, laughing until they cried. These moments require us to let go of our need to look good or be in control. They require vulnerability and willingness to be seen as we truly are, playful, messy, imperfect, and fully alive. Cultivating laughter, song, and dance means allowing ourselves to be silly, not taking ourselves too seriously, being spontaneous, embracing moments of pure joy, letting go of what others might think. Brown notes that this is often the hardest guidepost for people to embrace because it requires such deep vulnerability, but it's also one of the most rewarding, as it opens the door to genuine, unguarded connection and joy. Key themes and insights. The difference between fitting in and belonging. One of the most powerful distinctions Brown makes is between fitting in and true belonging. Fitting in is assessing a situation and becoming who you need to be in order to be accepted. It requires us to change ourselves, to hide parts of who we are, to perform in ways that gain approval. Belonging is being accepted for who you truly are. It doesn't require us to change. It requires us to be authentic. Ironically, our attempts to fit in often backfire. When we're constantly adjusting ourselves to gain acceptance, we never feel truly accepted because the people around us don't know the real us. We end up feeling lonely, even when surrounded by people. True belonging only happens when we present our authentic selves to the world. And that requires tremendous courage because authenticity means being vulnerable to rejection. But it's the only path to genuine connection. The armor we wear. Brown identifies common forms of armor we use to protect ourselves from vulnerability. Foreboding joy. Refusing to fully embrace happiness for fear something bad will happen. Perfectionism. Believing that if we're perfect, we can avoid criticism and shame. Numbing. Using anything we can find to take the edge off discomfort. Cynicism and criticism. Maintaining a critical stance to avoid being hurt. Control. Trying to manage every outcome to prevent pain. While these protective strategies may shield us from immediate pain, they also prevent us from experiencing joy, love, and authentic connection. The armor that protects us from hurt also keeps out the good stuff. Shame resilience. Brown's research on shame led to the development of shame resilience theory. Shame resilient people. 4. Recognize shame and understand its triggers. They can identify when they're experiencing shame and know what typically triggers it for them. Practice critical awareness. They can reality check the messages and expectations that fuel shame. 6. Reach out. They share their stories with trusted people who've earned the right to hear them. Speak shame. They talk about how they're feeling and ask for what they need. Building shame resilience doesn't mean we'll never experience shame. We will. But it means shame won't have the same devastating impact. We'll be able to recognize it, reach out for support, and move through it more quickly. The importance of connection. Throughout the book, Brown emphasizes that connection is why we're here. It's what gives purpose and meaning to our lives. The research is clear. A strong sense of love and belonging is an irreducible need for all people. We're hardwired to connect with others. It's how we're meant to live. Yet many of us are experiencing profound loneliness, despite being more connected than ever through technology. We have hundreds of online friends, but few people we can truly count on. We share curated highlight reels of our lives, while hiding our struggles and fears. Real connection requires vulnerability. It requires us to be seen, truly seen, for who we are, imperfections and all. And that's terrifying. But it's also the only path to the love and belonging we all crave. Practical applications. Daily practices. Wholehearted living isn't about making one big change. It's about small daily practices. Morning gratitude. Start each day by acknowledging 3 things you're grateful for. Self-compassion breaks. When you make a mistake, talk to yourself like you'd talk to a good friend. Vulnerability check. Identify one way each day you can practice being authentic. And joy moments. Notice and fully experience moments of joy without foreboding. Connection time. Spend quality time with loved ones without distractions. Creative expression. Make time for creative activities, even if just for 15 minutes. Stillness practice. Spend a few minutes in meditation, prayer, or quiet reflection. The key is consistency. These practices work when we do them regularly, not perfectly. Setting boundaries. Boundaries are essential for wholehearted living. They're not walls, they're the limits we set to protect our well-being and values. Setting healthy boundaries involves knowing what you value and what's important to you, recognizing when something or someone is crossing those boundaries, having the courage to speak up, being willing to disappoint others to honor yourself, saying no without guilt. Brown emphasizes that daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves even when we risk disappointing others. Many people struggle with boundaries because they fear rejection or conflict. But without boundaries, we become resentful, exhausted, and inauthentic, building a shame. Resilience Toolkit. Create your own shame resilience toolkit. 8. Identify your shame triggers. What situations, people, or circumstances typically activate shame for you? 9. Develop critical awareness. Question the unrealistic expectations and unhealthy comparisons that fuel your shame. 10. Build your support network. Identify 2-3 people you can reach out to when you're struggling. Practice speaking shame. Share your shame stories with trusted people and ask for what you need. 12. Develop self-compassion mantras. Create phrases you can use when shame arises, like, I am enough, or this feeling will pass. Having these tools ready before shame strikes makes it easier to respond effectively when it happens. Creating a culture of wholehearted living. Wholehearted living isn't just an individual practice. It can transform families, workplaces, and communities. Ways to foster this culture include modeling vulnerability. Be willing to share your struggles and imperfections. Responding with empathy. When others share vulnerably, meet them with compassion. Celebrating authenticity. Appreciate when people show up as their true selves. Challenging perfectionism. Call out unrealistic expectations and embrace good enough. Practicing gratitude together. Share what you're grateful for with family, friends, or colleagues. Prioritizing connection. Make time for meaningful relationships and interactions. When we commit to wholehearted living, we create ripple effects that touch everyone around us. Conclusion. The Gifts of Imperfection offers a roadmap for living wholeheartedly in a culture that constantly tells us we're not enough. Brown's research-based approach provides both validation, you're not alone in your struggles, and hope, there's a better way to live. The central message is both simple and revolutionary. You are worthy of love and belonging exactly as you are. Not when you lose weight, get the promotion, find the perfect partner, or achieve your goals. Right now, in this moment, with all your imperfections, mistakes, and messiness. But believing this and living from this place requires courage. The courage to be vulnerable, to set boundaries, to disappoint others, to try and possibly fail, to show up authentically, even when it's uncomfortable. It requires compassion for ourselves when we fall short and for others who are also struggling. And it requires connection, the willingness to reach out, to be seen, to let ourselves be loved. The journey, not the destination. Wholehearted living is not a destination you arrive at. It's a practice. Some days you'll nail it. Other days you'll fall flat on your face. That's okay. That's actually the point. It's in those moments of falling, of vulnerability, of imperfection that we have the greatest opportunity to practice self-compassion and authenticity. Brown herself admits that she doesn't always live these principles perfectly. She still struggles with perfectionism, worries about what people think, and sometimes numbs uncomfortable emotions. But she keeps practicing. She keeps choosing courage over comfort, authenticity over approval, and connection over isolation, the gifts. The gifts of imperfection are paradoxical. When we let go of who we think we're supposed to be, we discover who we actually are. When we embrace our vulnerability, we become stronger. When we accept our imperfections, we become more whole. When we stop trying to earn our worthiness, we realize we've always been worthy. When we cultivate self-compassion, we become more compassionate toward others. These gifts don't come from perfection. They come from imperfection. They emerge when we have the courage to show up as our authentic selves and trust that we are enough. Final thoughts. In a world that profits from our self-doubt and insecurity, choosing to believe in your worthiness is a radical act. It's an act of rebellion against a culture that wants to sell you solutions to problems you don't actually have. Wholehearted living won't make your life easier. In fact, it might make it harder in some ways. Setting boundaries can lead to conflict. Being authentic can lead to rejection. Embracing vulnerability can be scary, but it will make your life richer, more meaningful, and more deeply satisfying. The choice is yours. You can spend your life trying to be perfect, seeking approval and fitting in, or you can embrace your imperfections, live authentically, and truly belong. You can armor up to protect yourself from vulnerability, or you can dare greatly, knowing that showing up is more important than perfection. As Brown writes, owning our story can be hard, but not nearly as difficult as spending our lives running from it. Embracing our vulnerabilities is risky, but not nearly as dangerous as giving up on love and belonging and joy, the experiences that make us the most vulnerable. Only when we are brave enough to explore the darkness will we discover the infinite power of our light. The gifts of imperfection are waiting for you. All you have to do is embrace who you are.